How are you? Welcome to the Spotlight on Home podcast.
We are Chris and Katie Corbett. We are veteran homeschoolers for over 11 years, and we wanted to invite you to listen to our podcast. We want to share some wisdom, especially if you are new to homeschooling, or maybe you're feeling like you're holding on to the tips of a rope or whatever, by the tips of your fingers, trying to figure out okay, what did I get myself into? How are we even successful in this? So when you listen to Spotlight on Home podcast, what we're going to be going over is some tips on, how do you start homeschooling? Is it even legal? Are you even allowed to do this?
Or why would you even want to? Especially because, a lot of the people we know find it to be completely alien, a thought.
Yeah. Also, we have 8 kids. And so people are like, well, how in the world do you homeschool 8 different grades? Or, how do you even do that? I don't even know what that looks like. And I only have 2 kids or whatever. So I always get a lot of questions. We actually decided to start this process and start this podcast because homeschooling has exploded. And I have so many moms now. They know I homeschool. I've been homeschooling for over 11 years. And so they're like, can I come over and look at your curriculum? Can I check out and just look at what a day looks like for you? Can you show me what to do? I don't even know. And am I doing this right? And, so I get so many questions. And I thought, if these women have questions, I'm sure there are people out there that might not know someone who even does it. And so we wanted to come alongside parents that are new to this or thinking about it, and they want that confidence and they want the support. We're like, okay, here we are. We'll just share with you the wisdom we've learned. We've graduated 2 girls out of our homeschool. One is finishing up online courses in interior design. The other one just started her freshman year away at college. But we also have a 2-year-old. So we, and then we have 30 kids in between.
It seems sometimes. Yes.
That's how it feels sometimes. But, we kind of are in every stage of life all at the same time. We're teaching one child how to potty train. We've got another one who's learning how to read. We have another one who, like I said, just went, learning how to play an instrument. Another one's going to be learning how to drive. Another one just went away to college. We have kind of all these things going on. And so we thought, we can share our lives with you and share with you what we've learned through the trenches and, help be a resource for you. And we even created a PDF. It's called 10 Tips to Begin Homeschooling Now. And you can find that at spotlightonhome.com. You can just download it, and it will have links to things that we discuss in this podcast and different resources that I use personally in our own lives, so that you can grab the resource, and then it would save you really hundreds of hours of researching and trying to find curriculum and maybe spending money that you don't necessarily want to spend on different curriculums and seeing if it works. We'll kind of share with you okay, we've tried this, we've tried that. And we'll also go into giving you tips on okay, how do you pick a curriculum that's going to work? What should you consider?
How much should you spend?
All those good things. But I thought for our first episode, I just wanted to share, and I'll ask my husband, Chris, how did you, so sometimes there's usually in a relationship of parents, right? Sometimes there's always one that's I don't want you to homeschool. I want them to go to school, right? For whatever reason, maybe they met homeschoolers who were weird back in the 90s and the 80s.
Legitimate.
Which is legit, or maybe they just felt I don't want to screw my kids up, and I don't think we're qualified. I don't think we can do that. It's funny, I have a master's degree, and so when he tells people, we homeschool, at first they're like, you shouldn't, you're going to screw your kids up. But then he's like, well, my wife has a master's degree. And then they're like, okay, no problem. But amazing. The secret is, you don't really need a master's degree to homeschool. You really just need to know how to read and write, because a lot of curriculum actually has the words in bold print, tells you scripted exactly how to teach a concept. So I think we have this illusion that teachers hold this secret to
a mystical
learning,
key to the brain,
and that's really not true.
They are taught some tricks, and they are legitimate, but
it's mostly classroom management, I think.
A lot of it does not necessarily translate directly into this miracle grow in the child. Especially coming from strangers. Now, there's a million ways that you could come to decide, or even just think about homeschooling, because it's a scary thought. It's a scary thought. You're going against your parents. You're going against your friends, your siblings. You're going against the bulk of culture. However, in light of the last couple of years, I think there are more people now who have either decided that they don't like what they see, or found themselves learning at home against their will. Their kids are doing some sort of cyber, which is we do believe is a legitimate homeschool. There are certain things you do have to watch out for depending on your beliefs. Regardless of how you got there, to jump into the river of information out there on homeschooling. See, we now realize the pioneers, in the late 60s and early 70s that decided they were going to homeschool, and they were the only couple of people in a state that decided to homeschool. They did it very organically, and they developed curriculum. Well, all those people that developed this and honed it down into a fine art during the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, well, they all sell their products now, and which is a good thing. But if you, the newbie, goes online and looks up this stuff, man, there's so much information. It's hard to know. Do we have all the answers? No, but we have bought curriculum, and we realize that this child works well with this one, but not that child.
Right.
And well, then we got two different maths or a different science method or something. So you're going to want a lot of people, some can do it. They'll buy one gigantic package. They'll just lay it out for the kids. Boom, sit there, do it. And sometimes the kids are, okay, mom, dad, do, no problem. And some people want to read it all to their kids. Some people want to just put them on the computer and let them do it. The computer is an excellent way because it creates a lot of the information you need. Sometimes you have to prove your point to the state. You're gonna buy some, and it's gonna get messy, and you're gonna like this. Either the kid's crying or your wife is crying, or whatever. But it's all really good stuff. It's out there. We've gone through a lot of it, and we can guide you. And we've been through the trench a little bit, and we'd be more than happy to trim some of the fat.
Right.
There are no really wrong answers, which is nice. What we want to learn or help you do is figure out what works for you.
Right. And also, we'll also take time on this podcast. We'll answer the questions like, well, what about socialization? Like, I don't want my kids to be weird. I want them to be able to have friends. We'll go over all those things. And also when it comes to, picking a curriculum that's right for you, will show you how to consider your own personality, how to consider the personality and learning styles of your kids and your energy level and your finances and what you can afford versus maybe what might not be. And then also realize like you have ideals. When we first started homeschooling, I had 3 little girls and we would sit on the couch and I would read and we'd have tea parties. And now I have 5 little boys. And if we sat on the couch and drank tea or hot cocoa, we'd have blisters because they're always like flipping around and doing crazy things. Like you have to adjust based on the season you're in and understand like, okay, there are limitations in every season. There are limitations in your personality, in your budget, in your energy levels. And you really have to consider that when you're choosing curriculum. So we'll go through all of that with you and we'll give you the pros and we'll give you the cons and we'll give you tips on how to get that socialization in and how to, how to find the information you need to make sure what you're doing is legal and, how to start, how to do it all, what curriculum, socialization, all those things. So this is kind of our premiere podcast episode to kind of get to know you. So what I thought I'd do is ask my husband, Chris, so how did you come upon the concept of homeschooling and what made you decide that you were like, okay with this crazy idea?
Well, like we kind of discussed before, I was kind of the horse that led this.
Yeah.
Which, if you knew me, might surprise you, but also might not. When I was growing up, my father had gone to public school and my mother had gone to Catholic grammar school. And my parents openly acknowledged that my mother received a better education. She had more things readily available or a little bit more figure-outable in the way she thought than my father did. And that always just went in the back of my head. And I too went to private school. In grammar school was excellent. High school, That school looked very much like public school. They were trying very hard to be an academic powerhouse and things like that. And my experience was poor. I was not a good student, but at the same time, they didn't really guide. And so I was always kind of turned off in the regular model. Plus, I had a lot of public school friends. They were all great people, but there's a difference. And the trouble that these people were getting into, definitely unique to them, it just sort of followed a little closer. And many of the things that the parents had to deal with or hope that their kids didn't get involved with were very close and very present. And at some point, we became Christians in 2003, and we realized that there is no reason to fight the world if in this regard. We're supposed to raise up children the way they should go. And I actually saw a quote today. It says, it was by Charles Spurgeon, raise children the way they should go, and you better be going that way too. So this podcast will also discuss marriages and being a better man, being a better woman, being a better child of God. And you're going to find it easier with your children, to not look like or rhyme with the world by homeschooling. She discussed, being the homeschool weirdo. Well, you're weird because you don't look like them. Yeah. But socialization, things like that if they can go to the store and have a transaction, they're socialized. Yeah. It's not the issue people think it is.
Right.
A room full of 25 9-year-olds is never a calm thing. It's chaos until somebody older or wiser steps into the room and creates order.
Right.
You can do that. You are not, the teachers are not unique in particular. God granted you those children. He feels you can educate them. You get them up to, at the very least, we get them up to kindergarten, and they've learned enough. Well, you can actually do it. You'd be surprised. Yeah. But once you do it for a little while, you won't be surprised. You'll wonder why. Even today, my son, he did his math section in a matter of
10 minutes?
10 or 15 minutes. Oh. And I said, boy, he's done with that. Language arts and a couple of other things next. He's done for the day.
Yeah.
The school is full of time fillers. And now, if he chooses to move on, or they ask to do extra lessons. Yeah. Oh, okay. Go ahead. And I can either grant them a day off, or they can be ahead of schedule, or whatever. We had, was it Christian? Was a half a year into school math?
Actually, my son Carson.
Yeah. Carson was a half a year ahead. He was in
Yeah, well, last year we started doing kindergarten with him because he was 5 going on 6. So I started kindergarten, and he picked up reading like that, which I'm so thankful for, because my 2 prior to that was like, wanted to poke my eye out, if I'm being honest. Right. So it was like, thank you, Lord, for sending me someone who is quick to pick up reading.
Everything was hieroglyphs.
Yeah.
For a long time.
And then I started math with him too, and he picked that up super fast. So, I'm like, you know what, rather than do the kindergarten stuff, he's learning it. I don't need to just keep going over vowel sounds. Like, he's getting it. He's putting words together. Right. So we just skipped ahead, and we went into kindergarten, and we started kindergarten work. But that's the luxury you have when you homeschool, is you can see, okay, this child is actually struggling in reading, and I can't move on to the grade that he needs to be in. We need to get these phonics down first before he can move on. Or you could say, look, this kid is excelling, and he's going to be so bored if we keep drilling down these same math problems, because he just gets it. He does it in his head, and he does it really quick. So then you have the luxury of custom tailoring your education to suit your child's personality, to suit their needs, to suit their interests. Right now, our boys are on this huge solar system kick, and it's that's all they talk about. And so, you know what? I'm like, we're looking up videos to watch. I have a book all about the solar system, so I gave them that. Now we have our own. We're doing chemistry for science, but this is just kind of like extra that they are just interested in, and so it's like, great, go for it. And I said to Chris,
and YouTube is not all bad.
No, you do. There's have to.
Plenty. You got to curb it, but they can answer a lot of questions, or actually, transfer a lot of information to these kids. And he's telling me, the size of Saturn and this and that
Yeah.
and the other thing. Actually,
gas giants.
Yeah, gas
It's
giants
cute.
and
It's really
gravity. And we were on our morning walk, and my son was riding around on his little electric motorcycle, asking how many Saturns fit in Jupiter. I'm like, well, that actually I don't know that one. I know it's 1,600 Jupiters fit in the sun and all these other things. But I had to ask Siri several solar system questions just to keep our walk going. Otherwise, we never would have.
Right.
I'd have to sit down and start Googling all these things.
Yeah.
And he was still convinced that the Earth was the size of a tennis ball, but we couldn't get that. Someone made that analogy, so the Earth will forever be a tennis ball to him. But he's only young,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. But also, so I was going to say, we're going to plan a trip to a planetarium because it's just, they're going to love it, and so it's like you can custom tailor the education to them, and be open and be flexible, and that'll be fine. So you'll be okay. So he was actually on board with the homeschooling idea when we were really newlyweds. I don't even know if we had children yet, or maybe we had one.
Yeah, I forgot
and
that.
I was not into a friend of ours. They lived in Vermont. They're very crunchy and granola, and we're homeschooling. And I'm like, oh, that's nice, but that's weird, whatever, and so I really was resistant to the idea. I'm like, no, we'll find a nice Christian school and they can go there, and that's just what we're going to do. And once we were pregnant, I was pregnant with like our fourth or fifth, it really just became a matter of logistically, can we still keep up? Like, I wanted a big family, but can we logistically afford private school with this many kids? Like, what really could I do? And so I started researching homeschooling, basically as a way for me to contribute to our family economy. Can I make this work? Is this possible? And it took me well over a year.
There's one of them now.
This. Yeah, they're knocking on the door. So anyway, actually, it's probably time to wrap this up anyway before it gets too long. But, here we are. We just want to walk alongside you. We'll have fun doing it. We want you to, turn the podcast on while you're going about your day and listen in, hopefully get a few chuckles, get some dose of reality, but also really leave from your time with us encouraged and be like, okay, I can do this. I got this, or let me go check out what she was just talking about, or, let me share this with my husband. Here's a dad who is on board with homeschooling. Let him listen to Chris and get him on board or whatever. Right. So head over spotlightonhome.com. You can download the 10 tips to begin homeschooling now PDF, and you can use the links, and we will be back with another episode very soon. So have a great one, and thanks for joining us.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.